Right. Okay. Hey guys. My name is Vincent. I'm the Steakhouse Protocol lead, dealing with all things smart contracts, testing, integration, you name it. It'd be great to kick off talking about the Steakhouse in a bit more detail. If show of hands, is the Steakhouse Protocol for people that the Steakhouse Protocol is brand new? You know, is this okay? So for most people, it's brand new. So I'll just go through high-level summaries of about the Stakehouse Protocol to give you sort of a feel of you know what we're looking at here. So the Stakehouse Protocol is about making your stake liquid. So taking a 32 ETH, making it liquid, but without losing ownership of your assets. So it is what we call a true derivative, because if you own the assets that are issued by the protocol, then you own the underlying ETH. At any point that you want to leave the system, you can do, you burn your tokens, and you walk away with the ETH when it's going to be enabled at some point. So permissionless entry, your deposit is simply tracked. The ETH goes to the Ethereum deposit contract. That's not a problem. It is just tracked by our registry. So the Stakehouse Protocol is a new ground-up registry-based design. There's no pools, there's no bridges, no oracles, no nothing. And we have a dual-factor registry. So your 32 ETH stake is going in, and out comes 24 DETH and 8 slots. So you can, you know, the two are adding up to 32 units of the asset, but packaged in two different ways under two different registries to achieve different things. So the DETH is the risk-free tranche. You can buy DETH and you get all the inflation rewards from the beacon chain. So all the inflation rewards that 32 ETH would get goes completely to the DETH holders. That's literally number go up, but number go up from the beacon chain. So as the beacon chain is telling you that your balance is going up and up and up, the DETH is accruing that, and you can report your own balance at any time. Slot, on the other hand, is the risk-bearing. So slot protects the DETH. If there's any slashing, if you misbehave on the beacon chain, that's fine. Anyone can report you. You can lose the slot tokens in the protocol. But if you're managing it well, you're not going to lose your tokens. It's just there to account for lost ETH. So the slot goes down. The slot can be topped back up, so you can get your slot back. If somebody reports your a balance decrease of 1 ETH, then you know you can top that up with 1 ETH again. Everything is happy really after that. So it's just important to understand this new registry design. Like I say, all that's happening within the protocol is your deposits are being tracked, so that derivatives can be issued to you. But it's issued to you, and by holding those tokens, you can always get the underlying ETH back. The protocol just says, the protocol doesn't know or care who you are, but all it cares about is holding derivatives in the protocol. So when you burn them, you get your ETH back, right? So ETH burnt one way, you get derivatives, burn the other way, and you get... So issuance and redemption is a big part of all of the audits that we've had. Are users going to accurately get the correct amount of dividends? And are users able to burn their tokens and eventually withdraw their ETH once the Ethereum Foundation implement the withdrawal mechanism, whatever that is? So what we wanted to do is just give you a feel for the actual protocol. So the smart contracts are actually live on Gorelli. You can build on top of the base layer. The base layer, we call it a programmable yield layer. So the ETH coming from the beacon chain inflation rewards, you can program that in whichever way you like. Later on, when the merge happens, slot tokens will give you programmable MEV. You can do on-chain smart contract agreements between people. We're not going to do that. We just expose the block production. So you'll be able to do on-chain, agreements, and it says like, oh, if your validator produces a block, then we're all in some collective agreement together that we each earn X%, and it's just token based really. That comes later, but what we'll do is we'll focus on the inflation rewards happening on the Beacon chain. So on the Beacon chain, that's roughly like 4% yield at the moment, but because only the DETH, the 24 out of the 32, is getting all of those inflation rewards, the yields is nice. It's nice and higher than what you would if you were taking a vanilla 32 ETH and depositing it. So you start looking at 5.7% instead of the 4% being exposed to every 32 ETH batch. And this is going to be very attractive to people. Protocols are going to want to offer that out to other people and do all sorts of things. But the powerful thing about this about the programmable yield layer is its sustainable yield. So as long as the Ethereum blockchain continues to operate and issue the yield, you have a perpetual source, a sustainable source of yield, as like a foundational layer that you can build long-lasting protocols on top of. At the moment, you have, Aave and all these other protocols that it's the yield is based on supply and demand. Some people want an asset, so there's a variable rate, and it's just this constant flux, but it's not sustainable. You can't build extensive things on top of that. The Ethereum consensus layer is changing that, and all we're doing here is, like I say, through the registry model, the deposits are tracked. We expose a programmable yield layer. You do whatever you want with it. We're not interested. So the idea with this launch and build is to show where you might get started with that. So This will be up for the majority of the time. I'm going to take it off the screen for a second just to show you a few things, but it is so this is a link to our Stakehouse Academy, which is we're kind of debuting that today. So it's like a one-stop signposting shop. So if you're like, okay, right, I get it, I get this programmable yield, where do I get started? How do I either get it for my own benefit, or how do I take that and maybe you want to build a money market, maybe you want to you're an ETH whale and you've got a ton of ETH and you want to set up lots of validators, fractionalize it, and issue an ERC20 token to many people. So that's very easy out of the box, and you would go here and you would use this as a template and a guide for getting started. But there are a number of concepts that you have to wrap your head around. So we want to push out more and more docs because we're introducing a lot of concepts. Other protocols that are doing staking-based products are predominantly issuing one token. Some are also doing two tokens, but here we're doing two, and they have different properties, as everyone was talking about. So they hold different properties and have different goals, different users in mind. A DETH that is getting native inflation yield from the Beacon chain is for somebody who is, they say to themselves, well, so I want to put my ETH to work, or I want to convert my dollars into ETH, and I want to put it into work, right? My bank account is giving me basically nothing. So I'll take 4%, or I'll even take with DETH, I'll take 5.7%. So where do I get started, right? What do? Do I just go buy DETH on Uniswap? Well, that's one strategy. So you can just it's kind of like just a buy, and that the Beacon chain is giving you this yield. How you know that, I can actually get into in a second. But so that's more for a passive, somebody who's passive and who's like, look, I don't want to mess. I know that there's this MEV strategy, or there's these bots I can write, and it does this, and it brings this token here, sandwiches this person. You know, that's cool. You know, it's not for everybody though. Some people just want to, you know, they got busy lives. They just want to buy DETH and, you know, get on with them. You know, but if you want the risk element of it, you go and you buy slots. So, or you set up a validator and you get both tokens. The slot will give you the block production rights. It will give you access to gas tips, MEV, you know, all those things. So there's no base layer income, but the upside is unlimited, depending on what your strategy is, depending on how you use it. But like I say, we'll focus on firstly on the aspect of DETH. So how do you know what is yielding what? So obviously I mentioned about this. So the Stakehouse Protocol is giving you yield, but it's coming from a fixed set of validators. But you know what that means to people, you know, is a different story. So. Like I said, we've got smart contracts already on Gorelli that have implemented all the fixes that we found in the various audits that we've done. We've done, you know, 3 audits, simulations. We write properties. We're going to be talking with Certora later. But it's you know, like I say, it's a registry that is tracking deposits, which means that the data around every validator that is registered through the protocol is exposed to anyone who wants to index the smart contract events. We are indexing the smart contract events here and exposing it in a nice way via the subgraph. And it's just a case of, you know, so if you want to, for example, if you want to get simply just a list of validators registered in the protocol, so a validator in the protocol that's registered is referred to as a NOT, or a validator that's had its derivatives minted, because there is a minting flow. I'll have to get up a diagram maybe later. There is a sequence of steps that have to be completed in order to get your derivative tokens. It's not as simple as some other protocols. So some other protocols you'll deposit ETH and you'll get a receipt instantly. So, you know, it's in the same transaction. You know, you deposit 1 ETH, you'll get the other token that they give you. Okay, that's fine. But the validator is not registered at that point. Nothing has actually happened. The protocol has just taken your ETH. Here with the Stakehouse Protocol, we follow, we call ourselves a derivative layer of the consensus layer. I just had to word that correctly, carefully, because sometimes we say derivative, consensus derivative, but not consensus, the company, the consensus layer. So that means that if you want to register a validator, you have to deposit 32 ETH, because that is the requirement for setting up a validator. Ethereum Foundation said that, you know, not us. You can, of course, on top, as with anything, you can build a smart contract that does anything. If you want to build a smart contract that you want to stake together with your friends, family, whatever, if you want to set up a contract that pools ETH together and then does the 32 ETH deposit, and then that smart contract some type of multi-sig that owns the derivatives, that's, you know, that's fine, that's doable. But the base layer requirement from the Ethereum Foundation is 32 ETH. You know, you either have that or you don't to register a validator. So, pooling will come from other protocols. That's fine. But once that is registered in the protocol, so you register. You say to the protocol, okay, I'm here to register my validator. You know, can I proceed? So, you know, there's a number of security checks that are done. And eventually you can mint your derivatives, but only once the validator has met. So you see here, so this validator has an eligibility status. So the eligibility status is reached before it actually generates yield. So it generated yield from that point onwards, but it was actually ratified and verified by the beacon chain. The Stakehouse Protocol is not interested in your validator registration under the scenario you want to mint tokens if it's not been verified by the consensus layer. The consensus layer, obviously built by the Ethereum Foundation, does a number of security checks. So when you do the deposit on the Ethereum side, for example, you have this follow distance. So you do a deposit and you have to wait X number of blocks until the consensus layer will even consider your deposit. You know, it does that, and it does so many other security checks before it gets to the point where it says, okay, well, I'm actually happy with this. I'm happy with this registration. And you just have to think of the Stakehouse Protocol as tracking, right? So we follow this, right? So you see here on the Beacon chain, a deposit was made on the ETH1, well, ETH1 execution layer. That submits in the transaction a signature from the validator that wants to set up. So the validator generates its credentials and says, oh, I'm such and such validator, my public key is this. I'm going to sign a transaction to say that I want to be a validator. And the consensus layer says, okay, well, fine. Well, you come with your signature and I'll check if it's correct using BLS signature verification. So if it's happy with that, then it will go ahead. There's ways of, submitting malformed signature, in which case, if you don't submit the correct signature to the deposit contract is a one-way black hole. There is no Vitalik Buterin, you can't phone you up and say, oh, I made a mistake, my signature is invalid. Or you can't phone the Ethereum Foundation. If you send ETH and it's incorrect, well, it just won't accept it. I mean, it will take your ETH, but it won't activate your validator. So, and there's a whole host of malicious scenarios that you can get into. There's front running. There's all sorts of well-known vulnerabilities around the registration of a validator. So the Stakehouse Protocol says, okay, well, yes, okay. So anything can happen, but if you want to mint derivatives, you have to have completed all the checks specified by the Beacon chain. The Beacon chain has to tick, 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 tick. We just say, okay, cool. You can have your derivatives. And on the basis that you are only getting your derivatives when a legitimate validator has been set up, then it means that we can say with certainty that you're going to get ownership over the underlying ETH. The underlying ETH has been activated. It's generating yield. That's when you get your derivatives. That's yours. You can keep it for as long as you want. You can sell it to whoever you want. Or if you want to exit the system and you hold all the tokens you were given, burn your tokens back, take it out of supply, and then you'll get the ETH on the other end. So going back to the subgraph, if you there's all sorts of data points exposed by a knot, like I say, is a validator that's had its derivatives minted. Every knot is associated with a Stakehouse. It's like a community of validators. So you might join, let's say, imagine you did staking via if Coinbase exposed a Stakehouse integration, you might want to, you've got your ETH on Coinbase and you do you join the Coinbase Stakehouse, or you set up your own and you say, no, I'm going to go on my own. I'm going to do this community of validators. I'm going to join the Devconnect Stakehouse. You've got the ability to query all the Stakehouses. So each knot has there's a Stakehouse. So basically, a Stakehouse is a registry, a list of validators essentially. It's a smart contract that can be deployed by a Stakehouse operator, or you can just simply join one. That's not a problem. You can get a lot of information about each validator. So you've got the DETH balance. So just one sec. I'm just going to put the mic down. Okay, so like I said, there's a number of concepts to introduce to you. I'll get down to the index stuff in a second, but at any point you can get the list of knots in a Stakehouse or across all Stakehouses. you can see what the balance is on the execution chain versus the beacon chain, and you can see whether that anything needs reporting or just simply like as I did there. I can just take this BLS public key and I can go to a blocks explorer. You can do this more programmatically. You can see the state of the validator. This one's accruing, ETH. But so what is this? This is 80 D8, right? So here, according to the last reported balance, this is 24.03, but it's now 0.06. So there's some DETH there. But the main reason for going down this rabbit hole and talking about it is to expose that as your beacon chain balance is going up, you can get that as DETH, and as a protocol you can accrue as much or as little DETH as you want. Like I say, you can fractionalize it, or you can offer that yield out to users in all kinds of repackaged ways. We just expose the actual yield itself. How you want to package it later on is that's down to you. So you can do ETH savings accounts. You take people's you take people's DETH, and then maybe in a year's time you say to them, oh, if you lock it up for a year, you can come back and we'll do all the management, we'll do the the fetching of the DETH and all that sort of thing. And you come back, you just trigger a withdrawal transaction, and you get your original principal amount plus the interest accrued from the beacon chain.
I'm sorry to stop you. I understand a lot of the business concepts, but not a lot of the technical concepts. So there's one thing I'm kind of hung up on. I just thought I'd just ask you early on.
Please.
So like we're rocking full like an RE that represents my ETH, but my ETH is still staked until the Ethereum will allow me to unstake it, which may never happen, or happen in 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
You're making it sound like I can unstake DETH and get ETH back at any time, but I don't understand how.
So the protocol is still dependent on the Ethereum Foundation enabling withdrawals whenever that happens. But whenever that does happen, the unstaking is possible on the basis that you burn your DETH. So when you basically taking the tokens out of supply, and you nominate an account to receive the ETH. So you say, okay, smart contract will burn my tokens, send my ETH here when it's ready.
So to be clear, until staking withdrawals are enabled, and you're up in queue, you withdraw, your DETH is no different than our ETH. It's just a tradable derivative that that you go into queue on.
Right. Yeah. But yes, when it comes, you'll be able to get that. So, all right. In terms of the Stakehouse Protocol, so Everett showed it in his talk, the SaveEth registry, which is your your reconciliation point for execution chain balances versus the beacon chain, and that is where the programmable yield layer is. So within that, you have this concept of indexes. So an index is just a collection of validators. So if I go to SaveEth index, I know this one has, you can basically, so each batch is, as I said before, every time you want to register a validator, you have to deposit 32 ETH because that is what the deposit contract will accept. So your ETH is going to the deposit contract. We take a note of that, so you have these batches and you can group them. Hey.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that you have to have 32 ETH in order to use the protocol, right? You can essentially build by yourself, like
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't mean that you have to farm mobs to use the product.
No, you can leverage some type of third-party service to bring down the minimum staking requirement. I mean, when you come to the doors of the protocol, it says, well, the next guy. So basically, the Ethereum deposit contract where you need to send your money, that's the guy that wants 32, not me, right? So you just, but you can say, yeah, I'll build, or somebody else will build a contract. You know, you and your friends, you can, deposit ETH into that, and once you hit the 32, then you can send it over, or you don't have to do that, right? So setting up a validator is a more advanced process that not everybody is interested in doing. I mean, there's lots of node running services that will run the validator for you and do all that. You just, it can be set up in such a way that a third-party service can just make it as easy as just sending your ETH, and you get your derivative tokens, and they'll run the validator. Or you can buy the tokens on the market. So if you aren't interested in any of the complexities associated with that. But each validator registered can be grouped together in an index. So like this one here, this index has 4 validators generating yield on the beacon chain. Each of them will have different performance based on the node runner. So, if the node runner has any downtime, maybe on one of them, maybe you spread it amongst multiple node runners, maybe via SSV. You can do that. We have like 60 seconds. We have a UI that you can go and try. I'll have to speak to Derek about, because it's on Gorelli. So the Gorelli ETH is actually quite hard to get hold of, but we do have some Gorelli ETH. So you can go to this DApp so I think this is my internet connection. You can go through, we've got easy and expert mode. So expert is just you have the deposit CLI, you generate your credentials, you have your keys, it's all the same. It's the standard files that the Launchpad uses, and you can set up a validator and a not via this process, and then we've got an integration with the SSV network where you can take those files and you just say, well, you just run it, right? You don't have to set up a node. You can do the whole thing in about 2 minutes, really, and you can have something generating yield in it depends on the beacon chain queue, because like I say, you don't get your derivatives until everything's being checked by the beacon chain, the consensus layer. But when you do get to that point, you could group these things together. Like I say, node performance will vary, but you'll get an aggregate yield from this index. You'll get a smoothed out aggregate yield from these the list of validators. And you can, as a protocol, you can remarket that maybe as a fractionalized token, like an ERC20, NFTs, 1155. You can do whatever you want, really, as a protocol. But the point is that each of these validators have yield operating on the beacon chain, and that can be exposed. We've got a script to calculate. You just query an index on the subgraph. You get a list of your validators, and then you can calculate an average yield. Based on how much they're earning per year, and that's what you would market to people. Now, the interesting thing here is that you don't have to poke a smart contract to know how much is being made in this index. So you can go to the beacon chain. Obviously, you can use a block explorer like this, or you can go straight to any node. You can run your own node. We're all about running your own node. That's quite a nice thing that the Ethereum Foundation is trying to bring back, is being able to run your own node, making light clients available. You can query your balance, and you can see that changing over time, and that, right, that there's this index with all these knots. There is an index owner, so there's a single address that owns these indexes. And so let's say that's a protocol, that's Yearn Finance, that's whatever. You can show via user interface, this is accrued this much in the last week, blah blah blah, and maybe every few months you actually claim the DETH. because it's at that point that the tokens are minted. So new tokens are created. There's no rebasing. There's no there's no it's nothing. It's just a standard ERC20 token that can be integrated into any protocol. There's really no surprises there. So this index is tradable as well. So you can let's say you had an index with 10 validators. They're all generating. Maybe they've been generating. Let's say they've been generating 4.5%, and the market average is 4%. You're like, oh, this is a special thing. I'm gonna. You can either tokenize it as an NFT or whatever you want to do, or you can just say, I'm going to put this up for sale. I'm going to sell it. I want to liquidate my position. But you can do that. You might do that because you want to go and restake and do some other things, or you just want to take profit and go away. So the tradability is there at an index level. You can transfer in one transaction the ETH from all the validators. You can trade individual validators as well, so you can move individual validators in and out. But the main thing as well to note is that every DETH comes from a specific source. So if it's very clear where the like, for example, the dead weight is compared to the knots that are performing really well. So you can automate the whole thing where you just you can rank validators by performance, and maybe if one of these if these batches, so you can withdraw the ETH as well, you can get it. But if you want to have it in an index structure, and you want to remarket it, that's really not a problem. The programming layer just offers you different approaches, really. So on the so on this website we have a so join Steakhouse is where the DApp is, but you have this Academy section. So you've got the ability to read a lot more about sort of what's happening behind the scenes. So one thing that so this is good. So we have we're pushing out docs all the time for this. There is the concepts of what is a DETH, what is a slot. But developer-wise, we have sort of an SDK. If I show you, right, and we've got an example of how you can get up and running with the SDK. So you've got the ability. You can install the dependencies. You can pull data from the smart contracts, or actually issue transactions. So we are trying to make things easy and expose them via the UI. This is just like a first implementation of it. So we have this we have these. So this is an example user account. This is all right, so we have this user's deposited 4 batches of 32 ETH, and some of them are minted, some of them rage. So the rage quit is the functionality where it's where the user has burned their tokens and they're waiting to claim their ETH when it gets enabled. Withdrawn, you can withdraw your ETH from those indexes. Or in the case where, like I said, so you've done your deposit but you hadn't minted your tokens. This is an example of how you would be doing it. So it's going to it's just simply checking a beacon chain node. Are you eligible? You can you can join a Steakhouse. So you join like I say, a community of validators. Maybe you want to join the safest house, and you can get your tokens. So so we have within the SDK, we've got the ability to withdraw ETH. And do various actions like that. So, but we also have further unimplemented functionality in the SDK there. So, if you wanted to get started with some things in there, sort of setting up a validator, you can do. So we've got all the reference to the docs there as well. So Academy-wise, so this is sort of the new thing that's not long been out. So the goal here is, so like I said at the start, is to give you sort of the initial an initial idea of how you might get started building things. So we have, for example, template smart contracts. It's, you know, it just throws a scenario out and says, okay, well, if you had such and such scenario, and you know, you wanted to expose the yield to your, you know, to the protocol users, then you know, this is one of the ways that you would do it. So templates. So for example, like I was showing you with the index on the subgraph, you can fractionalize. You can fractionalize an index, offer an LP token to people. You know, the data's all there. It's all exposed. You know, it's all publicly verifiable data that anyone can curate. We have this yield protocol example. You know, you want to build money markets, bonds, you know, savings accounts, self-repaying loans. So that's cool. And this is what we were talking about, the pooling aspect. So we have an example smart contract already that we ran on Grelly, where each individual user didn't have. So here's an example Grelly contract. So this might be interesting to see. So each individual user that used the smart contract didn't have the minimum 32 ETH requirement to stake. So so this contract allowed you to supply less than that, less than the 32 ETH, pool it together and do a transaction. So this is based on the concept of Moloch. If you're familiar with it, Moloch is all-seeing, all-knowing, and it requires sacrifices. In this case, it requires a sacrifice of up to well, exactly 32 ETH, not up to, so exactly 32 ETH in order to do the staking. So, but in exchange, Moloch gives you an NFT representing your sacrifice. So in this case here, where is the value? 8 Ether. So so this user had 8 Ether, and they got an NFT representing that 8 Ether sacrifice. And I'll tell you why that's important in a second. So we had a number of users doing this. So 12 Ether for this person. They had a bit more, and they got an NFT. So essentially, each person that does a sacrifice, you can have one person doing the full 32 ETH, and this contract only, all it does is it's taking ETH, it's escrowing ETH in order to do a deposit. That's all it's allowed to do. It has constrained spending. So you know, you can have a DAO that deposits the 32 ETH into the contract, and then that gets staked using we've got a representative mechanism. It's like delegation. You can as a, you know, if you have a DAO with a treasury, you can put your stake somewhere, and the only thing the contract can do is stake for you, but via a representative. You know, because obviously the DAO smart contracts are not self-executing, so you always need some element of human. You can actually see the sacrifice here: 8, 6, 12, 6, and they all got NFTs. So now the NFTs essentially represent a multi-sig in a contract, a tradable multi-sig, where each signer is actually represented by an NFT, and it doesn't matter who it is. So you have this tradable NFT. So that came from depositing ETH. So these people collectively deposited 32 ETH at the start, and they got an NFT in exchange, and that represents a stake in a future validator being registered. Depending on how early on you know, it's risky, but once the validator is actually registered, you can actually trade that NFT ahead of time. That's just like an unintended consequence of writing this contract. So you can, this contract basically, as an NFT holder, you can propose transactions. So you can propose, oh, I'm going to register let's register a validator. Let's register a validator. Let's get our derivatives. And you can, I mean, this is in our docs anyways. This is a simplified version of the template that we've actually supplied. You know, the sacrifice, and the proposal mechanism. But in the end, after all the transactions were executed, this contract, being a type of multisig represented by the NFT holders, it got its DETH So the SETH is like a Stakehouse ETH. It's like specific to a specific steakhouse. I won't go into that because it's a bit. It sort of distracts from the yield side on the DETH. And this contract actually set up the Moloch Steakhouse, so you can actually see. Yeah. So we have this validator here joined the Moloch Steakhouse. And it left the house actually as well. So not very loyal, but you know, this is just an example. Like I say, the Steakhouse templates, they're just there for you to play around with live smart contracts on Gorelli that are exposing a yield layer. So you know, you can. We've got this public now. You can clone this. So what we might do is we might what's the time? 11:22. So that's cool. You know, you can take this. This is deployable. So you know, you've got a smart contract here. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. Doesn't matter. It's just, you know, it's just a guide. So you take it, you modify it, or you keep it the same. And you've got in the box, you've got you know, you've got hard hat scripts to deploy it. Maybe you have a different framework that you want to use, but you can deploy these and try and recreate that live demo that I showed earlier. I actually what we can do is if anybody wanted to download these, you can follow along with that link and get the actual the smart contract templates, because what we'll do is I'll go for like a sort of a live not too scripted demo of like downloading the contracts, compiling them, making some modifications, and getting a feel for sort of, you know, how you might use it. But before I do that, does anyone have any questions? I appreciate I probably spoke quite quickly, but and it's a lot to take in. But does anyone have any questions so far? No. Derek, pizza-wise, what? Oh, okay, cool. I just wanted. Okay, that's fine. So I can keep going. That's fine. That's okay. I might need some water, but I can keep going. Yeah, please.
I'm not a developer like most of the people on the room.
Okay.
Consider me just one of those guys with a lot of ETH.
No problem.
Trying to figure out how to get a lot of yield.
Yeah.
And I was just
thank you.
reading about Steakhouse online.
Thank you.
I was feeling like this was a situation where I could stake ETH, basically back someone that's got skills with MEV, and so like part of my yield is going to be my ETH being used for people doing some MEV mojo.
Right. Right. Well, no, I think you're on the right lines. So Mojo, right? Let's go with the Mojo, right? Right. So the stake is repackaged into 2 tokens. So your 32 ETH goes into that 24 ETH and the 8 slots. So the 24 just deals with inflation rewards from the beacon chain. You can just keep that, and it's passive. It's passive yield. The slot, on the other hand, that's where the MEV and the gas tips are going to go once the merge hits.
So I assign those slots to someone who
Right.
is performing well in MEV.
Yeah, so you would choose your favorite MEV syndicate of choice. Maybe somebody in this room is, you know, the next. Maybe there's some MEV whiz. They doing something with flash bots, but your token in. I need to be careful what I say here, but your token, you will be able to lend your token to a smart contract and get a proportion of the
MEV.
Yeah.
Okay, those 8.
Yes. So it's packaged as SETH, you know, but it's the slot tokens for a house. So yes. So you saw the on the subgraph. So you can pull a list of validators across the whole protocol. You can get the entire list of validators. And now what happens with the the consensus layer is so time on the consensus layer is, if you know, is broken up into epochs and slots. So blocks will be every 12 seconds once the merge hits. So and it's, you know, it's rigid. A block can be missed, but it's 12 seconds bundled up into 32 slots make an epoch. So 32 slots is 6.4 minutes, and it basically so every 6 minutes, 6.4 minutes, the validators that will produce a block are selected. So you have like a window ahead of time where you know who's going to produce a block. And
I've got the basic concepts of MEV. I'm just focused on the finance aspect of this. So for my 24 ETH,
yeah,
I got a pretty stable fixed return, and it's very low risk. I know what I'm going to get, and I'm rolling the dice on the other rate that some MEV wizard might give me a lot more.
Right. Yeah. Precisely. Precisely. The only point I was so wanting to illustrate is that you can basically, you know, who's going to make the MEV. So if your slot is part of that, you're going to get a share, and you can work that out 6 minutes ahead of time. So some seconds are more valuable than others, really. Or a service that would give that information to you on a dashboard. You know, oh, these people are about to produce some blocks, right? You know, so it's just tokens, right? Moving, but the point is that the beacon chain exposes this data for you. Well, maybe not for you, but maybe repackaged for you in a simplified way via a user interface. These tools need to be built and exposed, and we'll work hard to support teams that want to do that. But yes, absolutely. So, you know, and like I say, some seconds are more valuable than others. So there's been various NFT drops that have happened on the Ethereum chain. You know, that have happened. You know, so gas does go a bit crazy sometimes, but you know, imagine if your slot tokens were part of some of those NFT drops where people are paying 1,000 GUI or you know, whatever. That's just pure profit for the. So miners will shift to the validators, and your slots will be a part of that share. So yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say about the fact that you can query all this data is that and knowing it is that, you know, it democratizes MEV. So you have natural with the Steakhouse Protocol. You have natural built-in proposer builder separation, which is like quite a trendy, you know, term being spoken about now, where it's like, oh, the people who are producing the blocks have all the power, and yes, they do, but with a miner, the problem is with proof of work and mining is you don't know who's going to produce the block. So you know, it's going to be 13 seconds, 14 seconds, but you know, it's kind of like every time it's a surprise. It's like, surprise, it was me. Surprise, it was me, right? Proof of stake is different. So you know 6 minutes ahead of time who's going to produce a block. And from that you can build smart contract agreements that say, okay, well, you are 10% likely or 95% likely to produce a block in the next hour or the next 5 hours. Okay, so I want to borrow your block production rights. Maybe you're running a validator and you don't know all the technical ins and outs of MEV. You don't care, but you hold these block production, you know, tokens. So the slot tokens. So you say, well, I know they're valuable, but I don't have the time to look into, you know, all these things. I'd rather fixed income. So I'd rather somebody came to me and said, like, okay, here's $90,000 for a week's worth of your block production rights. I'm going to lend that from you. And you say, well, 90 grand for a week? Well, I'll take it. The person borrowing the tokens from you knows something that you don't. But you're like, okay, whatever, I'll take it. They may go on to make $1 million from an NFT drop. You're happy you got your 90 grand. I mean, yes, you might be like, oh, I wish I knew, but the fact is you didn't know, right? So they're saying to you, here's your money. They get the scope, the broad, you know, it's bandwidth. So Ethereum can only produce a block every 12 seconds. So that means there's a, you know, fixed supply. There's obviously a fixed supply of blocks that can be produced in a year. And outside of NFT drops and stuff like that, it's very valuable for layer 2s. Layer 2s have to commit their state down to layer 1. They have to update the execution chain. with all the transactions that they've compressed and done, up in the layer 2. So block production is very valuable for a lot of applications, and this is where people are going with the thinking shifting towards that. Most people will move to a layer 2 rather than a layer 1. And a layer 1 will serve protocols rather than users. Users will probably use it still. At the end of the day, the Ethereum blockchain has been running for a long time. It's done pretty well. It's not bulletproof, but it's done pretty well up to this point. So in some people's eyes, that is an extremely secure layer for asset custody. Because remember, the blockchain custodies your asset. You don't custody your asset. You just have a private key that allows you to spend assets on the blockchain. And there's people that will, if you want to put $1 million on a blockchain and you want to wake up tomorrow and know that the blockchain is still there, you're most likely going to put it on Ethereum. But you can do there. I'm not saying other chains aren't secure. Other chains don't exist. I'm just talking about its track record up to this point, and so far so good. The other thing as well is the decentralized aspect. Some people care about that, a lot. Some people less than others. You have 300 and something thousand validators on the consensus layer that are going to, hopefully, if the merge goes smoothly, everything's hunky-dory, they have the ability to secure that base layer. The more validators, the better. My main point was about block capacity, it being finite, it being an in-demand. There are all sorts of figures about basically blocks as a product that basically blockchains sell, and Ethereum has the most valuable block space in the world. So that's very interesting, really. How do you service your block needs? How do you do that in a sustainable way? If you buy up enough block production rights, then if an L2 has enough block production rights, what really is their cost in the end? Because right now it's like, okay, well, I have to submit. Maybe I can do it via Flashbots and get a good deal with a miner. Maybe I have an SLA with them, and blah blah blah. But you can set up your own block capacity, and maybe you end up getting a block every 15 minutes. Or every half an hour, however depending on your security requirements, or you don't have the block production rights, but you borrow it from other people. You say, I'll borrow it from you, and it's going to be much cheaper. And this goes so far because, there are some regulated institutions that can't use the Ethereum blockchain because they don't know who they're paying. If you don't know who the next miner is going to be under proof of work when a block is being mined, how do you know who you're paying, and how do you know that they're, according to regulations, they're all hunky-dory, right?
Sorry.
Please.
Someone's got to ask questions.
Please.
So let's say there's a world where I assemble thousands or tens of thousands of slot tokens. I'm a huge believer in MEV, and I want to be able to extract that value. But I don't have the technical know-how. I want to outsource it to somebody else to do it. Does there have to be somebody on the other side of the market? You just said that someone would loan me the space, but do they have to be a Stakehouse participant also? What good does it? Is it a possibility that I assemble all these slot tokens, but if there's nobody on the other side, that they're useless to me? I don't know if that makes sense the way
I think I can rephrase it. I think I know where you're going.
Your website says you're sort of an automated market maker for block rewards. So I want to hear about the other side of the market. If I'm the side of the market that buys the slot tokens, who's the other side of the market?
Producing the blocks.
Yeah, but do they have to be using your protocol also, or is it all?
Okay. So if I can try and rephrase it, so basically there are the tokens that represent the rights, and there's also the the machines running and how are they aligned. So you can run your own node. It's standard Ethereum infrastructure. The whole thing is all standard tooling. We don't build any special tooling. We believe in just using all the standard stuff. So standard Ethereum deposit CLI and all that stuff. The validator is obviously identified by its public key, and it has associated files for when you want to run it on a node. So you can use SSV to produce your blocks, or you can run the node yourself, delegate it to another service. The slot is what gives you access to the files, the key store files, in order to run the node, the management rights of the validator. So this is what Justin was talking about this morning, the common interest protocol. So the common interest protocol is saying that we have, okay, so there is the Stakehouse, and all these validators are getting registered. They produce blocks, but what happens if somebody just abandons their validators? Maybe they sell all their tokens and they're like, I made my money, goodbye. What then? So if a validator starts leaking, its token balance goes down, then the original entity that set up the knot and did the staking, they'll start losing slot. When they get to a point where they've lost more than 2 slot through slashing, somebody can come in and say, well, I'm going to top up the slot. I'm going to fix that, right? This validator's balance is going down, down, down. This is not good for anybody. Like if you're a consortium and your business is block production, you know, a leaking validator is not producing blocks. That's not good for business. Your efficiency is going down. You know, it's not good. So somebody can come in and top up the slot, so they can supply the 2 ETH. And by the way, that'll take a while to happen. We have a simulation report coming out talking about balances going down and up, what implications of that. So it'll be public knowledge and readable by anyone. But so the slot gets topped up. You go to the common interest protocol, the multi-party computation system, and you say, hey guys, I now hold the majority share. I need to fix this. So you recover the files that Justin showed in the demo, and you say, right, let's get back into it. Let's reboot this thing up. So this is where the slot tokens are very important, because you can only produce the blocks if you have the ability to sign transactions. This is where the common interest is very important, because without collective common interest and collective common support to facilitate the safe running of the protocol, then you have the ability to destabilize the protocol, because it's permissionless. Anybody can come in, anyone can sell their tokens. Nobody's going to stop you from doing anything. So when you let people loose, then you have potential problems, and you need a mechanism, a self-healing mechanism. So the beacon chain, allows you to top up your validator to increase your balance. If you leak for a while, you can top that back up, because what you want to do as a validator, you have 2 balances. You have an active balance and you have an effective balance. And the effective balance is capped at 32. It's essentially your voting rights. 32 ETH worth of voting, but your active balance goes up, the inflation rewards. That's different. So if your effective balance is dropping because you're not running the validator properly, then you're less likely to be selected for blocks. You're not gonna get as many rewards. The beacon chain has all these mechanisms built in. You're encouraged to keep your balance in check, keep your validator in check. And the common interest protocol allows you to facilitate disaster recovery. Something went wrong. My house burned down, or I got flooded, or my node operator is gone. AWOL is sitting on a beach in the Bahamas. I don't know. I need to recover that, and I need to facilitate disaster recovery. So you go to the cryptographic protocol, and you say, okay, well, I have the slot tokens. Here's the proof of it, and the protocol say, okay, fine. You tell me where you want to send it. I'll send you the files. Each participant in the protocol just has shares, but so you can see how the holding of the slot is important. And like you say, you can be the token holder. You delegate your token to somebody else. somebody else runs it for you, and you collect. You know, like Monopoly, you connect every time you pass go, you collect some money. I hope that answers your question.
And that can still be instant in this world where there's staking queues and unstaking queues. The delegation of the slots is instant.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So that's yes. So that's an execution layer action. So the validator queue is actually quite interesting. It's a proof of stake protection mechanism to stop like an attacker coming in with lots of ETH, flooding the chain, going mental, and then leaving the chain, you know, in a very short space of time. So you can only have like 5 validators joining per epoch. Now the Steakhouse Protocol will allow you to. So if this has gone off. So the important thing here is the not that. So right, let's go here.
Hey everybody, the pizza's here. Feel free to help yourself.
Yes.
And eat.
Yes. Absolutely. So all I was going to say is about the right. So you have a validator here that is eligible for. That's when all the security checks are passed. You can actually mint your derivatives at that point, even though your activation might be in 1 week time. So you in that time you can get your derivatives. They may not be earning any yield. Once it's activated, it'll earn yield, but you can get your derivatives ahead of time, and they're yours on the execution chain. There's no queue to worry about or anything like that. All the checks have been passed up to that point.